baby, that's lovely.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your psychedelic and cannabis news source. We're live here from the Legacy420.com news desk, and we're also live on our networks, Facebook pages, YouTube and Twitter locations, and CBG TV. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you? I like that new intro.
You like that new intro?
Yeah, I want to tell you that. Sorry, now you
Yeah,
can answer how you are. I like that new intro. I wanted you to know that.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna say I'm better today than I was Friday, and the only reason is on Thursday you had a booth at the Kind Winter Fair in Toronto, and I was down there broadcasting for the networks, and geez, Friday I woke up and I was so sore. I couldn't believe how sore I was.
I feel you. I feel you. Yes, it was because it was so cold. We were out there for hours in the cold, not realizing maybe that it was that cold, and it sets in that deep cold when you're out there for a while. Eh?
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I felt my age, that's for sure, and I don't like to admit that, but wow. It's not
Yeah.
like broadcasting live in my 20s, that's for sure.
No, it's
Woo!
not. Like I couldn't believe it. I just like, wow, I've never been like this after an event. Like I couldn't even get my boots on. It was just
You need extra cannabis then.
I think so. I think so. So Kind Fair. Anything offhand you want to mention off the bat? Good time.
Just really neat to see all the different ranges of ages, diversity of humans that were there. The first day, so you came for the second day. The first day, it was even more slammed, there was even more bodies in there. I know there was a lot for the second day, but there was a lot more the first day. I don't know why everybody chose that, but they made everybody wait in a lineup that waited around the block to get in. Both days for quite some time. So that just shows you how many people wanted to be there for a cannabis event where we were smoking openly in consumption spaces at a cannabis event in downtown Toronto, looking at the CN Tower. Right there, just smoking away.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Legally.
It was very crowded. I know that on Thursday when I was there. I was glad we went around and did the interviews earlier in the day versus later in the day. But it just got so crowded in there. And but yeah, it was a little bit.
But I said to you at one point, I said, Al, we're here legally. How does this feel to you? Because you've been watching legalization like this. We were in talk about the smoking section, the stores and I say it the wrong way. The volcano section.
Stoltz and Bickle. That was one of the areas. They had the vaporizer set up down there.
Yeah.
And I said to you at that time, I said, Kelly, I think this is the first time that I've been back to a vapor lounge that was sponsored at an event by both Stoltz and Bickle, of the makers of the volcano vaporizer, since 2010. At the Treating Yourself Expos, because that's what they were doing. They sponsored the vapor lounges at the TY Expo, and they obviously sponsored it at Kind. Right. And I thought that was great to see them, even though it was 12 years later.
Right.
That it was a bit of a memory thing, seeing the people there talking to them and all that.
Yeah. Wow, and things have changed over that time.
Things have changed.
They were actually, this company, Stores and Bickle, donated a prize for our food drive. So we collected probably over 250 pounds of food for the Food Insecure in Toronto.
Great.
It took men, like my husband and another really big man, to carry out these two big bins full of food to the rescue van. And I'm so proud to say that everybody came in with their donations and hardly even collect prizes. It wasn't even about that winning prizes. They just really wanted to bring food and
Well,
donate. So we're very gracious to Kind for allowing us to do that. And all that food went to feed it forward.
and thanks to everybody for the contributions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We got some more stuff to talk about, but we'll get into that when we go into the next
Sure.
break. And that's
Okay.
on your market, so we can get into the news. And I
Yeah.
can deal with my dog who's just screaming.
Okay.
All right. So first story up, and then I'm going to disappear for a second. Here we go. Headline says, Health Canada releases guidelines for psychedelic therapy.
Wow, that's right. Health Canada has released a notice to stakeholders outlining its expectations regarding risk management measures for clinical trials involving psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. Despite mixed messaging from Health Canada regarding their support for psychedelic therapy, the ARC seems to be bending in the direction of a future government supported access. This notice shows that the agency is acknowledging that psychedelic therapy will be a reality going forward and is thus doing the bureaucratic duties and getting stuff down to writing as its expectations and standards of practice.
Health Canada recognizes the growing interest in the use of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy and one of the possible psychological and physical risks to clinical trial participants associated with this type of therapy. Because of these risks, Health Canada is publishing this notice to outline its expectations regarding the implementation of risk management measures by clinical trial sponsors. Although there are no established clinical practice guidelines for psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, some best practices are emerging in the literature. This document is intended to reflect these practices.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Okay.
Yep. Say the notice is broken down into sections, including risk management, expectations regarding therapists in clinical settings, as well as good manufacturing practices. So,
Oh, I see where you went there. Okay. Yes. Yes. Very interesting.
yeah.
Wow. Progress, at least. Health Canada getting on board. Progress.
Correct. Exactly. So it's good to see that there's something coming along the lines. Let's just hope it's not too restrictive.
Well, they're learned, though.
We've
I
seen
think
that
that
in
Health
the
Canada's learned a
past.
little bit.
Yeah.
Are we delayed a little bit? I think we're delayed a little bit this morning.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our feed is. That's okay.
We may
We'll
be.
keep
We
going.
may be. We may be. I'm looking a little bit overcast, and we got some snow over the weekend too. So
That's right.
yesterday.
Okay.
All right. Next. Feds change pot drink regulations, allowing Canadians to buy more beverages at once.
Woohoo! The federal government has approved a change in how the cannabis content of beverages is calculated, pushing the number of standard-sized canned cannabis drinks that can be bought at once from 5 to 48. That's a big jump. 5 to 48.
That's a big increase. Big increase. The change announced Friday and effective immediately makes 1 gram of dried cannabis equivalent to 570 grams of a cannabis drink, an increase from 70 grams of a cannabis drink the government currently equates to 1 gram of dried cannabis. 1 gram of dried cannabis is also now equivalent to 70 grams of non-solids containing cannabis-like oils.
I think we're going to start seeing other products change too, or other requirements change too. The shift is equivalency is important because the Cannabis Act, it's of course the federal legislation which paved the way for cannabis's legalization. It allows Canadians to carry no more than 30 grams of dried cannabis or the equivalent at one time.
Single cannabis beverages sold in Canada could also not contain more than 10 milligrams of THC, and that hasn't changed.
That left Canadians unable to buy more than 5 355 milliliter cans of cannabis drink with 2 or 2.5 milligrams of THC in each, but able to purchase 9 beverages that come in 222 milliliter cans with 10 milligrams. Anyway, it wasn't working out for them. All those figures equated to not working out.
The changes have increased the quantity of cannabis drinks adults can purchase at one time. At one time, it was 2.1 liters. Now you can buy 17 liters of it.
There we go. There we go. They're saying that members of the industry have long pushed for this change. I've been watching it for the last couple of years in conversation. And of course, we've been seeing this in the news for a while. When are they going to change it? Complaining consumers were being inconvenienced by the past formula and kept from buying six packs, which is a popular format for beer drinkers. Right? Absolutely. Why can they buy 6 packs of beer, but we can only get 5?
5, yeah. David Klein is chief executive at Canopy Growth. He says Canadians can finally purchase a 6-pack, 24 or up to 48 of their favorite cannabis beverages to enjoy with family and friends, which represents a win for consumers' choice as this category takes a leap forward. He continues to say, as our sector matures, today's changes mark a critical step by the federal government and demonstrate the necessary evolution of cannabis regulations to support a responsible and competitive cannabis industry in Canada.
Now, the change was under consideration since March when the government published a proposal on the matter in Canada Gazette. That started a 45-day consultation period where feedback from stakeholders, public health officials, and consumers was collected. It ended April 26th.
Yeah, cannabis drinks started hitting the shelves in most provinces back in 2020, and they were hailed as a way to lure cannabis hesitant consumers into exploring cannabis, but have since the sales, they say, have been sluggish.
Right. Cannabis beverages made up 2% of sales across Ontario Cannabis Store's website and the shops that it supplied between January 1 and March 31. The most recent quarter, it has released data. Oils made up just a small share of the sales record. Interesting.
Now, I'm really happy that they've done that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do have a complaint, I guess.
Okay.
About
Sure.
it. And in order for you to buy those levels, 48, say 48, 224, okay.
Yeah.
Depending on the beverage, it could cost you $400 for 224.
I know. That's a very good point, Al. That's a very good point that you should be upset about. We're all upset about that one.
And basically, even at the low end, it's going to cost you $200 for a 2-4.
Yeah, for sure it is.
$200
for a 2-4.
Yeah, like, what? I saw all this celebration on Twitter and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, well, it's like $400 for.
Yeah.
And I was using an example. I had a drink that was worth $8.25, and I used that as an example, right?
Yeah.
That's just that's costly.
They got $200
for a 2-4.
I think that if you look at it though, you're not going to need 24 cans of cannabis beverage to be intoxicated the way you would be if you were an alcohol drinker. And somebody like those big guys that go to football games and they get their 2-4. I think a 2-4 of cannabis beverages is going to treat them a lot differently. By the time they get to their 12th or their 13th, they'll be asleep. Probably. Instead of what they do with alcohol.
When we used to go camping years ago, like 40 years ago, we would bring a 2-4 with us for the weekend. Yeah,
that's a standard thing for people to do. So now they can do it with cannabis and enjoy their buzz a lot better. Yeah, it's good news.
Okay, on to our next story. Headline says, MJ Biz Daily, Ontario Cannabis Store regulator under pressure over alleged pay-to-play deals.
What the heck is going on here? The Ontario Cannabis Store regulator is facing calls to crack down on alleged pay-to-play schemes that some industry executives say allow larger cannabis producers and brands to secure shelf space for their product and other special treatment from retailers.
Industry executives say the problem ballooned earlier this year after the AGCO attempted to clarify its rules on inducements or slotted fees by issuing an update to the registered standards for cannabis retail stores, the rules that governing the stores here in Ontario.
Genoa Cavion, co-founder and CEO of Calix Trichomes in Kingston, said pay-to-play is common in many industries, but they're straight up not allowing it in Ontario. And I don't understand why the AGCO and other provinces don't do anything about it.
Yeah, she says it's a real thin veil. To get around curbs on slotting fees, industries officials allege some producers and brands are instead paying cannabis retailers for their sales data to ensure their products get preferential treatment in the Ontario retail market.
The monthly fee can
Hmm.
reportedly amount to tens of thousands of dollars or more.
Ouch.
What? You know what? I've heard this. I've heard of this happening. I talked to brand reps. I've talked to
Yeah,
retailers. I've talked to craft growers. I've heard this is actually happening. Whatever they're saying, and like I've heard people say they're doing it, or that they're being
yeah.
affected by it, or that they're seeing it actually happening here. The last time I heard about something like this was payola back in the old radio days, back in like Wolfman Jack days. Remember
Oh,
back
yeah.
then? And they
Yeah.
would come in, the record executive would come in and pay the DJ to play their record so it would get on the radio. That's something like that is happening right now.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
cannabis stores in
Getting shelf space,
2022,
buying space, making sure that your product is the product that's up front for everybody to
giving them
see.
incentives and, get your bud tenders to talk about our products. Here's a
Right.
bunch of free ones at the back door. It's happening.
Yeah.
You didn't hear it from
I
me,
look at
though.
it. No. No. All right, continue.
The cannabis store regulator in Ontario won't say whether it has taken any specific action regarding prohibited inducement arrangements between retailers and licensed producers, even though industry sources say so-called paid-for-play deals have become rampant.
Oh, I lost our spot. Oh,
An
keep going.
AGCO spokesperson says we have received information about concerns in the sector surrounding alleged inducement activities between cannabis retailers and licensed producers.
We can confirm that we are actively monitoring and conducting regulatory activities in a number of areas slated to the standards or related to the standards, including inducements. The AGCO declined to answer MJ Biz Daily's questions about the number of complaints it has received.
They're not even answering.
Not even answer them.
Ow! Are we allowed to not answer? Oh my goodness. The Ontario Cannabis Store, the provincial wholesaler, has directed questions to the AGCO as this is a regulatory matter. In Ontario,
Uh-huh.
retailers requiring or receiving payments from licensed producers for preferred shelf placements is prohibited.
Oh, that's probably why we're not hearing those answers. Yeah, Harrison Jordan, a Toronto-based lawyer, has assisted dozens of cannabis retailers, shared with MJ Biz Daily in an email response from the AGCO to an inquiry about the data sale policy. According to the email, it says, if the payment for the sales data is based on how much product a store stocks or sells, rather than the value of the data itself, it may not be strictly falling outside the parameters of Standard 6.6, but we would be considering whether it is a material inducement.
Ooh. Standard 6.6 established four prohibitions to ensure that they are not used as a method for material inducements. Jordan said the AGCO's answers underscores the ambiguity surrounding the data sale deals.
Yeah, it's hard to ensure a level playing field when these types of arrangements aren't definitely ruled as impermissible, according to Jordan. Independent entrepreneurs in Ontario, such as Paul Thompson of Little Leaf Cannabis Company in Stratford, says it's tough to compete fairly because the data revenue allows large corporate chains to sell cannabis below cost.
Ooh, he said he's spoken with a number of
Mm.
smaller LPs that are open to the no data deal conversation. There's a movement starting where LPs and retailers are pledging to not do data deals, Thompson said.
Yeah, he says I shouldn't have to pay you to sell cannabis. It just seems crazy. And good cannabis will sell itself. And I think that's where some of these large corporations can't compete. They just don't have good cannabis.
Headline, can AGCO sell data? Can it? I was wondering that. Some entrepreneurs have told MJ Biz Daily that pay-to-play deals give an advantage to large companies at the expense of independently owned stores. Absolutely. Retail chains are using a second stream of income that's allowing them to sell cannabis products at a loss, said Mike Ainsworth, owner of Kelly's Cannabis. What? I need to go there. An independently
go to
owned store
Huntsville.
in Huntsville. That's right. They've got my store.
Yeah. How is anybody expected to compete with that when they have one or two stores? They're using the millions of dollars they're getting in data sales to subsidize their operating costs, which then allows them to sell product cheaper than any independent store in Ontario.
Ainsworth warned that such data scale schemes could potentially force hundreds of independent stores out of the business. And he wants the AGCO to enforce the rules. Absolutely. What's going on?
They're not enforcing them by the sounds of it. He goes on to say the AGCOs and OCS own all that information, so anonymize it, sell it to the LPs, and take the money. It levels the playing field and everybody's happy. If it's all about data sales and it's not about millions of dollars falling under the table.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't they want it to make cannabis legal so that I'm just going to shut that down?
Yeah.
Didn't they want to make cannabis legal so the legal things weren't going to happen?
So why is it happening?
Yeah.
What's going on over there, you guys? I don't know. I think it
Yeah.
puts the little guy at a disadvantage. And I have heard
Sure does, yeah.
brand reps say that they will leave out going to stores because the store sales are low, or because they specifically sell specific products, or I've heard that before. So it takes a lot when this data is sold. It hurts the little guy.
Yeah, so they're more apt to drive past the little guy who doesn't sell much versus going in place automatically because they have good sales.
Right, absolutely.
Why not go in and work with the little guy?
Right?
Help him out.
Figure out how to do it.
Exactly. All right, on to the next story. This one comes to us from CBC. This Indigenous cannabis shop in London, Ontario, could be major test for Ontario's cannabis retail laws. This is interesting.
Very interesting. It's an unlicensed, Indigenous-owned cannabis retail store, and it's opened its first urban location in London, Ontario, looking to claim space in a crowded marketplace by selling cannabis its own way, potentially setting the stage for a major test of Ontario's cannabis retail laws.
Maurice French, 51, a self-described entrepreneur from Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, held the grand opening of Spirit River Cannabis Trading Post on Saturday. The London store is the newest in its fleet of 3 dispensaries located in Ipperwash, Melbourne, and Chippewas of the Thames, and the only location inside a major urban center.
Spirit River's debut puts its direct competition with more than 40 private cannabis retailers in London, whose operations are not only licensed but tightly regulated by the AGCO. Under the AGCO's rules, retailers may not promote their products as medicine or health pharmaceuticals, and must charge all applicable taxes under the law, and must source their products from a federally licensed product.
By contrast, French sells the product tax-free, promotes a traditional medicine, and says it's an 80 to 90% sourced by First Nations people. We're exercising our constitutional rights and our treaty rights to fend off economic genocide, French says. And this is medicine.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
The AGCO is not commenting. They're not commenting on the arrival in the marketplace, saying only that his store is not licensed by the provincial cannabis retailer. Look at that.
Look at the sign. $20 ounces.
Open 24 hours, $20 ounces. Now that's
no
available
tax
in London right there. There's not going to be, that'll shut down all the competition. I want to drive there for that now. I'm going.
Yeah, and
2 o'clock in the morning for a $20 ounce. That's worth the drive.
This is going to be interesting to see what happens, because I know when Legacy first opened, they stopped in and visited Tim a few times, and Tim, directed them to certain types of information that they should seek. And I think after that, maybe one more visit, and they've just left them alone. And we see how everything's just blowing up.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting what they do here, because I don't know of any that are on non-native, reserve
That's
land.
right. That's right. Yeah. Unless there are legal stores. So there's Toronto on the Danforth has a legal retailer regulated by the OCS that is Indigenous owned.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crap.
so
Yeah.
there's those, but this is the first model I've seen for this.
Yeah, exactly.
French said that he's not provincially licensed. He still follows strict standards, selling cannabis under the bylaws and safety protocols laid out by the North Shore Anishinaabe Cannabis Association.
Our rules are similar, he says. Our product is all tested and sampled. French's store might be new, but it's by no means the first Indigenous cannabis store to sell its wares on its own terms inside a major urban center. Well, here you go.
Mississauga's of the Credit Medicine Wheel has a number of outlets across Ontario, including 3 in Toronto, like French, operating under the premise that's offering medicine while fighting back against economic genocide.
However, French says he's not looking to start a fight with the authorities. He's simply asserting his rights as an entrepreneur and a Chippewa man. We're only here to be amicable. We didn't come here to cause friction. It's interesting, those other stores, we haven't heard anything about those other stores,
No,
and they haven't moved in on them,
no.
right?
Well,
They haven't made a move in
we
order to
would have
shut them down.
mentioned it. We would have heard about it, obviously. This is
Exactly.
very interesting here. Sorry, I'm just
We're trying to work with the city, the landowner, because truth and reconciliation and decolonization is a big thing right now. The mayor recognizes it before their meetings that they're on traditional territories and traditional lands.
Absolutely, and so we should. The land acknowledgement was cited in letters written by French's uncle, advisor, clan chief, and longtime Indigenous civil rights activist Del Riley. The two men personally delivered letters announcing their intentions to open the store and sell cannabis within city limits to London Mayor Josh Morgan and London Police Chief Sidney Williams on November 24th. So they just went right to them and said, here's what we're doing, just to let you know, FYI.
Yeah.
Good.
Our rights come from our nation, and the province of Ontario is not a nation. It has to go to the federal government every time we have issues on Aboriginal and treaty rights. They have to run to the feds. They can't do it themselves.
Oh.
London's mayor and police chief, they declined to comment on the story, and French says he hasn't yet received a response from either the police service or City Hall.
It isn't clear what, if anything, authorities can or will do. The Ministry of the Attorney General did not return a request for comment from CBC News, and several experts in law, Indigenous culture, and history declined to offer analysis on this story. I think probably because they don't have an answer. They're just going to sit there going, what do? We can't. This is their rights. This is sovereign land. The whole country is sovereign land. This is their rights.
If anything were to happen, French says he believes he has a legal precedent on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Says the Crown threw out its case against him in May after his dispensary in Chippewas of the Thames, where the sale of cannabis is illegal, was raided by the OPP in 2018. After the raid, he was charged in December 2018 under the Cannabis Act with possessing cannabis for the purpose of selling.
French, with his lawyers, along with the assistance of Riley and his lawyers, lodged a constitutional challenge against the charges where they argued the Band Council's ban on dispensaries was an infringement of French's constitutional rights and the rights of patients and who purchased his products.
According to court filings in the case, French's lawyers argued that the OPP raid prevented Aboriginals from dispensing medical cannabis in person to Aboriginal patients. This denied them the Aboriginal approach to traditional healing and plant medicine, which is enshrined as an Indigenous cultural right under Section 35 of the Charters of Rights and Freedoms.
Now, Maurice French now hangs the relevant sections of Canada's Constitution outside the door of his London store as a reminder to everyone, including his staff, his customers, and the authorities. We
as First Nations have a traditional right to sell our medicines on our territories, he says. Now, the chief of Chippewas of Thames First Nation didn't respond either to requests by CBC. So it looks like nobody Nobody
Nobody's
wants to
speaking
say
up.
anything.
Nobody's saying anything. They're just all just declining to talk about it. They're just kind of saying, "Well, I guess we'll see what happens," because you can't. It's so touchy. You don't want to
Yeah,
infringe on their Indigenous rights, and that's absolutely
right.
true. So let's see what happens, and let's see if other follow suit. Other Indigenous brands follow suit. Perhaps this could
Yep.
be a trend that we've all been waiting for.
We will keep an eye on that for sure.
Sure.
All right, break time to medicate. Kelly and I will be right back after a session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here on paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to Save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, you're back. We're back from our medication session, and you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here on the Pace Radio Network's YouTube channel, Facebook pages, CBG TV, and so much more. Well, Rev Kelly, we were talking at the beginning of the show about the Kind Winter Fair.
Yeah.
And that's not all that you were doing this past week.
Yeah.
You also held a market.
Yeah. Okay. The Cannabis Christmas Extravaganza. Oh, we're delayed again. Hello, can you hear me? Control tower. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me move?
Yeah.
Are you seeing me move? Can you hear me now? No.
Yes.
You're frozen too. Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay, good. Okay, I think we're good.
No.
Okay, we're not frozen anymore.
Oh, good.
My goodness.
All right. Okay, good.
But
good
is
stuff.
it Santa at the North Pole making stuff happen or something? Yeah, we had a Christmas market. We dressed like Santa and Mrs. Claus too. We called ourselves the Canna Clauses. You still can't hear me, can you?
Maybe.
Oh dear. The internet does not want us to stop today.
Right? It doesn't want us to talk. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
No.
Nope, and you're frozen
Okay.
again.
Okay. Good. Good. Oh no.
I hope there are people watching us live. This is so silly. And I hope you've smoked joints before you watch this. This has got to be so funny. Hello? Are you there, Al? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. The market was
I
great.
am here.
Oh, now I'm out of the show. Now you're out of the show. Are we there? I can't even see. I'm frozen solid and you're frozen solid. We're going to try.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Al, take over. I don't know.
Okay. Can you see me? All right. All right. Cannabis industry sales slow down after the pandemic surge. Can you hear me now?
After enjoying a sales surge during the pandemic, the U.S. cannabis industry is showing signs of a slowdown as it faces economic and regulatory challenges and people choose to spend their money elsewhere. In states with established cannabis markets such as Oregon and Washington, sales at retail outlets and dispensaries have declined from a year ago, according to a report from cannabis data firm Headset in Colorado, one of the country's most established market. Sales in June were down 11.4% from a year ago.
Wow. What
Oh,
we
you were
saw in
there.
2020 was a massive spike in sales tied to the pandemic as people stayed home, had government stimulus money, and not a lot to do with it, according to Chris Walsh, CEO of Marijuana Business Daily.
Between March 2020 and March 2021, average monthly year-over-year sales were up 25.8% in Colorado, according to Headset. But as pandemic began easing last summer, the report found both the frequency of cannabis purchases and the amount of money people spent began declining.
In July, for example, people spent an average of $55 per visit at the local Colorado store. There was about $4 less than the average of $59 in July of 2021. According to Wall, she says retailers are discounting in the time of high inflation because they're trying to move product from the shelves, and adding that businesses are also facing intense competition from a thriving illegal market that isn't taxed.
We are operating in an incredibly challenging and competitive landscape, with our biggest competitor being the illicit market, said Troy Datcher, CEO of the parent company, a cannabis company in California. Overall retail sales across the industry are still rising and are still
Overall, including
Go ahead.
New York, Maryland, and Missouri.
According to an analysis by Marijuana Business Daily, combined U.S. medical and recreational cannabis sales could reach $33 billion by year's end, up from $27 billion last year. Sales are projected to reach $52.6 billion by 2026. Wow.
Yeah, the long-term horizon extremely bright. This is what industries go through. For now, however, investment money is drying up as the market gets crowded.
Okay. According to Viridian Capital Advisors, a New York-based cannabis advisory firm, total U.S. cannabis capital raised year to date is down 62.6% from a year ago, and equity financing is down 96.3% from $2.1 billion a year ago to $78 million currently. Oh, wow.
Experts say part of the problem is that investors are tired of waiting for federal regulation. The lack of federal regulation means cannabis businesses in the states where recreational cannabis sales are legal still can't access traditional banking services or institutional capital. A congressional bill called the Secure and Fair Enforcement Act, or SAFE, would lift such restrictions, but hasn't made it through the Senate, despite passing in the House several times. Yeah.
A lot of
Sounds like
investors,
Mexico.
it does sound like Mexico, of course. A lot of investors had jumped in under the assumption that there would be some movements at the federal level to either reschedule the drug or pass a sort of banking legislation, said Matt Hawkins, founder of Entourage Effect Capital, a cannabis investment firm.
Yeah, him and other investors have become more selective in the types of businesses they finance, prioritizing those that already have significant market share that could end up hurting the small players hoping to get their footing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you say? Wrap this one up?
Yep. Yeah, hopefully we're on sync again, Al. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
We're a
I
little
think we
glitchy
are.
today.
That was yeah, that whole story started out nasty, didn't it? When
Yeah.
it comes to
Yeah.
all that.
It was Gremlins. It was the
Let's hope,
Gremlins.
yeah. Well, let's hope that so far so good. Coming up for this next story, got it all loaded and ready to go. Here we go. Headline says study identifies safe low dose of psilocybin for first time.
The drug enforcement company Diamond Therapeutics has completed a phase 1 clinical study of low-dose psilocybin. The study is the first randomized, double-blind, and placebo-controlled single ascending dose study to investigate low doses of psilocybin in human subjects.
As well as establishing a safe low dose, the trial findings also demonstrate that low doses of psilocybin are psychoactive.
Okay. The trial, the 56 subjects were enrolled in 7 separate cohorts over 4.5 months for the trial, and a panel of 5 physicians reviewed all safety data as it became available.
Yeah, Chief Medical Officer of Diamond, Dr. Michael B. McDonnell, stated that the Diamond study assessed psilocybin safety and tolerability with the aim of identifying a safe, well-tolerated, active, non-psychoactive doses of psilocybin. Before this study, little, if any, controlled research had been done to investigate low doses of psilocybin, and the study showed that low-dose psilocybin is well tolerated with no adverse events that would preclude its usage on an outpatient basis at home, removing the barrier of lengthy time spent in a clinic.
Now, Diamond's founder and CEO Judy Bloomstock added, the results from this landmark trial exceeded our expectations, bringing us closer to achieving our goal of providing new, better, and more broadly accessible therapeutics to the millions of people struggling with mental health disorders.
Yeah, she goes on to say that based on these results, we are proceeding full tilt with our phase 2 trial plans and anticipate sharing more news in the coming weeks.
Wow. The data is generated from phase 1 study. Diamond is preparing to launch a phase 2 trial investigation, low-dose psilocybin's efficacy, I never get that word right, in treating generalized anxiety disorders, GAD, a condition that affects an estimated 2.7 of U.S. adults in the past year, and an estimated 5.7 will experience GAD at some time in their lives. I would have thought the percentage was higher than that, Al.
Yeah. And they say the study is going to be conducted in Canada, which is good to see.
That's really good to see. We need that. I'd like to know what the percentage is up here of the general anxiety disorder. I know I'm just thinking all of the people I know around me have anxiety, so I guess maybe they just don't have that label yet.
Yeah.
And use cannabis for
exactly.
it, and you are using cannabis to help with it.
Yeah. Okay, next story. This one comes to us from MJ Biz Daily. A variety of sizes, infused joints are driving growth in cannabis pre-roll sector. This is the one I figure would eventually be big.
Yeah, that's a great photo there. Pre-rolls were once counted as part of the cannabis flower market, but over the past few years, they've become viewed as a distinct product category.
In terms of relative sales growth, comparing first quarter of 2020 to the third quarter of this year's, the pre-roll category has the highest growth, according to Cooper Ashley, who is an analytics manager at Seattle-based firm Headset.
Pre-rolls went from $406 million in sales and 7.9% market share in 2018 to $1.5 billion in sales and 12.7% of the market share so far in 2022. Wow.
Yeah. This change has been driven by the introduction of greater variety of pre-rolls as well as the consumer dollars that are being spent on them. They say that just a few years ago, pre-rolls were exclusively sold as 1 gram singles.
Today, there are half-gram pre-rolls, 1.5-gram pre-rolls, and a myriad of other sizes.
They also are sold in 2-packs, 5-packs, 10-packs, and other quantities, giving consumers more and different options in pre-rolled sizes, allow them to pair a pre-roll with the occasion.
Yeah. There's like doobies you can buy for your birthday. I think I even bought a bag of doobies. It said it was a bag of joints and there was 30 of them in it, like little tiny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can buy all kinds of them now. It's really neat.
I understand they call what we would have called a pinner or something along the line, dog walker joints.
Ooh, yeah. And they come in little packets and it's so interesting what they've done here with the pre-rolls, and they're getting people to buy them. Smaller size pre-roll packs have also spread across the nation with brands like Miss Grass, Lowell Smoke, Dog Walkers on the trend. Madeline Scanlon, with the analyst with Brightfield Group, a cannabis marketing research firm in Chicago, told MJ Biz magazine.
In the U.S., we have a lot of 2 or 4 packs and still a huge number of single pre-rolls. Canadians taken to bulk buying pre-rolls. It sounds like that bag idea.
Yeah, it was great.
Retail product buyers and managers concur with this.
The pre-rolls that move fast are the half-gram 2-pack multi-packs. Blunts don't move too well, but you can get moon rocket joints now. You can get diamond infused joints now.
Yeah, exactly. I know myself. I've got right now. Technically, I've got one on order, a pre-rolled joint that's full of hash and some diamonds or some oil is mixed in with it. So
Yes,
just
it's
waiting
so
to see
great.
if the store can get it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
So yeah, all right.
Huge variety.
Yeah. So pre-rolls are easy and convenient. So for so many years, we would see people standing out in the weather with their hands with a little bit of cannabis in it, and they're trying to roll a joint and protecting themselves. And I could never understand that. Pre-roll your joints. It's so easy just to take them out of a container.
Roll them inside, guys. Pre-rolls are easy for people that don't roll very well, like me. I don't roll. You roll perfect doobies, Al Graham. They should hire you to make their pre-rolls.
It's a lot of practice. Let's just say.
I bet it is.
All right, on to our next study. Here we go. Come on, bring it up. There it is. According to the study, suggests psilocybin increases mindfulness, especially when accompanied by mystical experiences.
Absolutely. A recent study published in Frontiers in Psychology investigates the relationship between psilocybin, mindfulness, and mystical type experiences and serotonin receptors in the brain. Following participants for 3 months after a dose of psilocybin, the new findings indicate that when taking psilocybin, those who report mystical type experiences are more likely to have increased trait mindfulness. In addition, those who took psilocybin had mystical experiences and became more mindful and saw less activities in the amygdala serotonin 2A receptors.
Psilocybin is a naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in certain species of mushrooms. It has been used traditionally by indigenous cultures around the world for centuries in spiritual and psychological healing ceremonies. The compound was made famous in the 1960 counterculture movement. However, its therapeutic potential has come into focus in the recent years.
Researcher Anna Sondengad and her colleagues acknowledged the many potential applications of psilocybin, including as treatments for depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, alcohol abuse, and smoking. For those without illness or addiction, an earlier but smaller study found increases in trait mindfulness after a dose of psilocybin.
Yeah, Sondergaard and her colleagues We're curious to discover if enhanced trait mindfulness will continue over time, and what, if any, was the relationship between mystical experiences when taking psilocybin, and finally, what role 5-HT2R has to play in the development of mystical experiences or trait mindfulness. The study defines trait mindfulness as the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmental to the unfolding of experience moment by moment.
I like that. The study included 39 participants recruited from a database of individuals willing to take psilocybin and undergo neuroimaging. In addition, they were screened for medical issues, pregnancy, and other drugs. Phase 1 of the study included providing each participant with a dose of psilocybin appropriate for their weight. More than half of the participants were either in PET scan or an MR scanner, and the remainder were in a comfortable room.
6 hours after the administration of the psilocybin, participants took a mystical experience questionnaire, which asked about things like feeling a sense of unity, ecstasy, losing your sense of time, or feeling like the experience could not be described. Finally, before and 3 weeks after the dose of psilocybin, participants took the mindful attention and awareness scale.
Statistical analysis revealed an 8.1% increase in trait mindfulness from before taking psilocybin to 3 months after. Furthermore, compared to the results of the mystical experience questionnaire, it was discovered that those who reported more intense mystical experiences have had higher trait mindfulness scores, and the brain scans also identified less binding activities at 5-HT2AR in the right side of the amygdala.
Concerning this finding, the research team stated the right amygdala may be more involved in mindfulness than the left one. Further studies need to explore the role of serotonin for individual differences in response to psychedelic administration.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Great.
Okay.
We got time for one more?
We got time for one more. We can do one more
more
quickly here.
Okay.
And I'm just loading her up. Okay. One more button. One more button. Here it is.
One more button.
Marijuana moment. Lawmakers and advocates want more cannabis prisoners freed following Griner's release from Russia.
Absolutely. WNBA player Brittany Griner is returning to the U.S. after the government secured her release from Russian detention after serving 10 months of a 9-year sentence for low-level cannabis possession.
And while there's widespread relief over the development already, there are calls from advocates and lawmakers to follow up with domestic reform and increase diplomatic efforts to release other U.S. citizens imprisoned abroad, including the one teacher who is similarly imprisoned in Russia over medical cannabis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The White House was asked about the case at a press briefing on Thursday, and Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre deferred to the State Department, arguing that every case is different and saying she didn't want to get ahead of an ongoing diplomatic efforts.
Griner's drug charge and extreme sentence brought cannabis policy and criminalization to the forefront of an international conversation. As the government worked diplomatic angles to get a release, attorneys provided the Russian court with evidence that Griner was a registered medical patient in Arizona, to no avail.
Okay, but they traded her for a prisoner. Did you hear about this part of it all?
Yeah.
Does it say this in this article here? Because this is
I
a
don't
very
know. We
good
haven't got
chapter.
to that point. We haven't read it all. Yeah, they
very-
traded her.
Not
Yeah,
a very good
absolutely.
thing. It wasn't clear what was going to happen with Griner, whom the U.S. designated as a wrongful detained after she admitted to accidentally packing cannabis vape cartridges that were found on her at an airport outside of Moscow. Advocates had argued that the U.S. would have been better positioned to advocate for her release if it didn't also have federal laws on the books similarly criminalizing people over cannabis.
Yeah. In the end, she was released, and on her way back, she's back in the U.S. And that was the prisoner swap, returning a convicted arms trafficker. So there it is. It's mentioned in the article.
This is the Merchant of Death. That's his name.
Yeah,
He's the merchant of death, Al.
I know. That's what some people. That's what a lot of people are upset about.
I can't even believe it. Go on, please. I'm sorry. I'm so upset.
Well, like I said, a lot of people are upset about. It
It's
took
just doesn't make
painstaking,
sense.
intense negotiations, and they want to. I want to thank all the hardworking public servants across my administration who worked tirelessly to secure a release. According to Joe Biden, he also said reuniting these Americans with the loved ones remains a priority that his administration and every person in the administration involved in this, and we're going to continue to work hard to bring everybody home.
Of all your years,
there's
Al,
been
how
a
many
lot of
times have you
backlash.
heard about people going to jail for cannabis? How many times in all your years? Hundreds, probably thousands of articles that you've heard about people going to jail for cannabis.
Lots of them.
Why this one person released for such a terrible, awful? My teenager said to me, "Mom, did you hear about this? Like it's captivated so many people. The merchant of death traded for this one basketball star. I'm sure she's wonderful. I'm sure she's lovely. But how many people sit in jail for cannabis right now? And why are they not traded for the merchant of death?" I'm angry. This is not fair.
There's lots of people, like I said, that are upset out there. that
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, they have their different points of view.
How do you feel about this? Do you feel that way? Don't you feel that way?
Online, I'm keeping my
imagine you do.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Release them all, or don't release one, and don't trade them for somebody so terrible.
Yeah, that's what they do. They trade prisoners. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are upset because it's
astonishing.
The guy was committed for wanting to kill Americans, traded for somebody who carried some cannabis oil into a country. Right. Well, we're still talking and not having a problem with internet.
I know. Now we can finally.
Let's get back to that market. How is the market?
The market was wonderful. So wonderful in a little tiny village to be able to offer a cannabis market with a place for cannabis consumption and a nug swap. So thank you so much for bringing your friend. He wanted to come. You were saying that Kent, he's our voice here, so I was able to meet him. Share a little bit about that, would you?
Kent and I have been friends for 20 years, and he he enjoys supporting those type of events, and we don't have them up in this area very often. I know he's traveled to be able to cover or go to an event like this, so he thought it was fantastic that you're holding something like that, and he supports it wholeheartedly, and he can't wait until the next one.
Oh, how wonderful. And as I was saying, I want to get this right. He's our voice here. He
does those little short clips that say, "What do you find at Pace Radio? People advocating cannabis education."
Yeah.
That's Kent, yes.
So that was really neat. And he brought some nugs to swap, as did so many of the other people. So wonderful to be able to do that. Thank you so much for coming. We'll get the Wi-Fi fixed up for you next time so you can broadcast live from there.
Now that I know it's there.
Yeah.
All right. Other than that, from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's our Pace News report for December 12th, 2022. Thanks to our buds at Camelford Lifestyle Shop and Legacy 420. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.